This is Puck Year, New Zealand's hockey podcast with hosts Logan Swinkles and Joe Jury, bringing you the best stories and interviews from Down Under. Alright, Puck here for another week, and it's our very first video podcast. Going trans-Tasman with this. I'm here in Sydney, and we also have Joe back in Auckland with a very special guest. Come in, Joe.
That is right, Logan. We are joined in the plush ACC studio by Justin Daigle, the captain of the West Auckland Admirals. And just truth be told, there was some minor technical issues before this podcast. Actually, even the start of the podcast, we had to
I feel like it's
again.
all your fault too.
Yeah, a little bit flustered from the technical issues, but we guarantee you that this podcast will go to air and you will be able to hear it. It won't be lost into a different dimension. So, Justin, welcome. Welcome again.
Yep.
And welcome for the third time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Hopefully I'm not the bad luck guy here and the jinx, and we can get this one on the air.
Oh, you're definitely not. And I swear we're a professional organization most of the time. But to start things off, just so we can make it all clear, definitively, is it Justin Daigle or is it Justin Daigle?
Well, it's a little tricky in proper French pronunciation, because it is a French Canadian last name. It is Daigle. So there's like a little bit of a roll of the tongue there for the GLE, but in all fairness, I'm not picky, and Daigle or Dag, it doesn't really matter to me.
Nice. Well, yeah, let's get right into the heart of things. Obviously, the 2018 NZIHL season, after so many years of trying, the West Auckland Admirals, you guys finally lay claim to the Virgil Cup, and now you've been through quite a few hard years before that with the team finishing last and, allowing a ton of goals. So how does it feel to now come out on the other side of that as a champion?
Oh, obviously, just an incredible feeling. From day one, my time in New Zealand, I knew that dressing room had something special in it. So it's a testament to all those boys that have been around over the years, and just the culture they've created. And again, last year was just such a gutsy effort by everybody. Losing 2 imports going into the final like that was just heartbreaking, but at the end of the day, everybody just picked up the slack and got the job done. So it was just amazing, and again, the quality of the group is just unbelievable. Really tight knit.
As the captain of the squad, you get to hoist the cup first. What was it like being in that presentation and knowing that you're looking back at your team and everything, that moment you are about to lift the cup?
Yeah, so I mean, at first you got to take the picture with the president, and so as soon as that's done, it's kind of like, give it to me. You just want it right away. But after that, it's like you just turn around and face the boys and get over to them as quick as you can and start the celebration, because it took everybody to contribute to that effort. So and obviously Gareth McLeish, one of the longest serving admirals, he got the handoff first, and so but again, it's just about celebrating with everybody, because everybody had input on that. So
one of the traditions that was kind of going around social media last year was the pose in the changing room. With the one guy naked.
Yeah.
Who was pushing that from your guys' side of things?
Well,
Dale?
I know that with that Ice Black, the Trans-Tasman challenge that they had there, Dale was the guy that ended up on top of the shoulders. So, Dale and Fraser Ellis is always in the mix there with those types of things. So, not to throw him under the bus, but
that's interesting, because recently I did a video with Joel Rindelove and Chaba, and we asked, if you were stuck in jail, who would bail you out? And Chaba mentioned Fraser, because he'd probably be in there with them.
I did. I remember seeing that, actually. Yeah, Chaba was pretty funny in that one.
Now, last year, the NZIHL introduced a brand new playoff format, the 2v3 one-off playoff, to decide who would go through to the Virgil Cup finals to play the number 1 seed. Are you a fan of that new format, or would you prefer to go back to the old way with no semi-final?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I was actually at the AGM when that got proposed, and it was actually us that, the Admirals that had suggested it. For so long, once you got to the end of June, you kind of knew who the top two were going to be. And so, third, fourth, and fifth, it was kind of like, all right, well, season's over now. And so the idea was just centered around the idea of making it more competitive all the way through the regular season schedule. So I'm a fan of it. It puts a lot of pressure on that second place team to still have to beat third, but it just means that third place is in the running right to the very end, which means that fourth place has a chance to take third. And so it just keeps things tight all the way through the schedule, so that you're not having an understanding of what those top two teams are come the end of June. So I think it's great. I would like to see it even get extended a little further, to do, almost like a best of 3 series for that semifinal, and then a best of 5 for the final would be sweet.
Yeah,
So
that would be good. That would be good.
That's taking the NZIHL to another level there. I like that.
yeah, it would be, and I'd like to see the regular season be extended too. But everything, it's always inhibited by finance and cost. So still a few hurdles to jump before that happens. But I would love to see an expansion before I retire. Let's put it that way.
Expansion would be great. Would you, I guess the big question is Wellington the first place you would look to expand?
I would say, I mean, they've already got themselves an association down there, and talks of a proper rink. I mean, I know that Frosty Spot is great. I've been down there and met with Rob, and what he's doing is awesome, but it isn't NZIHL ready by any means. So there's still a lot of legwork to go into it, but Wellington would be, definitely the next place on the list. And they already have such a prominent inline community that it would translate quite easily. So I would say, Wellington would be next up.
So obviously Wellington Seals maybe some point in the NZIHL there, but what were because you did go down, like you said, to the Frosty Spot sometime last year with our good friend Cam Green. So when you were there, what was like your initial impression of the rink there?
Yeah, I mean, I was taken back. I expected it to be a little smaller scale, even though I knew it was small. It still feels a little bit bigger than it is when you're out there. And yeah, I mean, the facility is pretty cool. You walk through like a go-kart complex, and then you're into a paintball zone, and then you're, putting your skates on to go out on the rink. But location is sweet right down by the water like that is really cool. But obviously there's some work to be done, like not throwing Rob under the bus, but I ended up taking a slap shot with a learn to play stick and put a hole in the board. So like I said, I don't know that it's anywhere near NZIHL ready, but just to get people in skates and to help generate that initial sort of push to generate interest is just unbelievable. It's really cool, and they're already having huge success. I know Punchy with the Frozen Fours, that tournament or mini league ended up being quite a success. So you don't need the greatest ice in the world just to generate that interest and get people out there. So it's what he's doing is awesome.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, we've got a documentary coming out later this year, actually, looking at what they're doing in Wellington. And one big thing that I took away from chatting with Rob is that what they have now, that is the beginning of things. Is by no means the end at all, and it's just going to keep building and getting bigger and bigger. So, I mean, friggin' exciting things to come in Wellington for sure. But,
absolutely.
You've had a great 12 months or so with hockey, and it kind of bookends a really nice comeback story for you. Actually, you missed a good chunk of games in 2017 after suffering that horrific eye injuries. Tell us a bit more about that road to recovery for you.
I mean, it was pretty traumatic, to be fair. I ended up spending 5 days in hospital after the fact, and had some pretty serious pain and nausea and all that stuff. I didn't know that the body's natural reaction to an eye injury like that, when the eye swells up, is nausea. So you just start vomiting like crazy. And so when your eye feels like it's going to explode, that's not the best thing, because you're sitting there like, heaving. But anyways, road to recovery, for a while there, it was really touch and go. First week, it was looking like the eye was going to have to come out. So that was pretty devastating for initial news. Like when it happened, your normal sort of pressure in your eyes meant to be between 15 and 20 PSI, and I was at 42. And I was on the red alert, as they call it. So I had to get up every 2 hours to have the pressure checked. And if it hit 45, they were going to go through emergency surgery and take it out. So I'm very, very lucky to still have it, and lucky that it happened in Auckland, to be fair, because that Green Lane Eye Clinic is world renowned. It's arguably the best in the Southern Hemisphere. And so I was in incredibly good hands. So my surgeons and all the specialists, I ended up dealing with a team of 4, and so they performed a once off. They called it a one in a million procedure with a 1 in a million results. So I was pretty happy with that. They ended up presenting my case at the International Ophthalmology conference. That was in Spain, actually. So it was, again, some cutting edge stuff that they did. So that everything was stable. So I ended up pushing the surgery a little bit, and my mom flew out here to come visit. So it's unfortunate it was under shitty circumstances, but at the same time, it was cool that she got to come and check out New Zealand. And then she was there for my pre-op and then my post-op. But yeah, post-op, it was a bit touch and go as well. They ended up having to take out my internal lens and replace it. So that required 2 incisions on the eye. And so one of the worst parts of the whole injury was the stitches that you're left with on the eyeball, because they stay there for 2 weeks. And so it's like you got something in your eye for 2 weeks straight.
So you can kind of see a little...
You don't see them at all, because the incisions were on the white part of the eye, but you feel it. So every time you blink, every time you're opening and closing that eye, it rubs on the eyelid. And so it was incredibly annoying and painful and just uncomfortable. But again, it was awesome. Even though I was 30 years old, having mom there was pretty cool.
It's always good to have mom.
Yeah.
And that year the imports were great, because they were living with me, and they helped a lot with taking care of little things I needed. And believe it or not, Punchy deserves a pretty big shout out. He ended up staying the night at the hospital with me the night it happened, and was helping me call my family the next day. And I think he missed 4 or 5 days of work those first 4 or 5 days, and was kind of by my side all the way through it. So and then he even set me up. It was pretty cool, because I had 7 different eye drops I had to take once I got released from the hospital, and I had to take them on like a really set schedule, and it was too much to keep track of. So Punchy took a big whiteboard that I had at home, and he wrote it all out for me, and then put it right next to my bed so I could look over, and just whatever time the alarm went off, I knew exactly what to take. And so now Punchy was huge. But no, I was it took a while to get back into just skating, and to be fair, like I was left with a bit of post-traumatic stress type stuff, and I was a bit head shy for quite a while, so I wore a cage. I don't know if you remember through BHL, but that was just literally not because of any worry of injuring it. It was just to get my head around being in close quarters again, and in the corners and all that stuff. It's just I got a bit head shy, to be fair. So, but I'm through that now, and it took a while to sort of retrain the peripherals and get things comfortable on the forehand side again. So it was frustrating. I kept losing the puck, which never happened beforehand. And I would just like, all of a sudden it'd be off my stick. I'd be going to make a pass and puck would be behind me. So, but retrained muscle memory is awesome. And I was able to retrain it. And other than some peripheral issues and obviously just a lack of overall vision in that right eye, I feel good, feel as good as I ever have. So.
Man, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. But
human body and science is quite, it's fucking crazy.
Modern medicine, man. Like, Jesus, if it was like Roman times, I'd be dead. They're just like, no, that's it. It would have been infected. I would have died of an eye injury.
To be fair, I would have been dead a long time ago if we were living in Roman days.
Touche.
There was a video that you posted of you on the ice for the first time since the surgery.
Yeah.
And it was like you could just tell every ounce of your body was just going through pure joy.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
It was so, and it was just like knowing that had happened and seeing you at the rink and everything before that, and knowing how much hockey and being on the ice meant to you. Seeing you on there was just, it made me happy. I know Logan may have even cried as well watching it. Yeah. What kind of kept you going after the surgery and all the rehab, and what was the driving force to get you back on the ice and everything?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it was just pure joy to get back out there, and hockey's always been like your safe place. You know, there's nothing from life can follow you on the ice unless you let it, right? So, incredible to get back out there. But what kept me going? I was incredibly taken back and blown away by the amount of support that was shown my way. I had messages coming in from all over the country, from parents who I've coached their kids, from that to other opposing players. The guy who actually did it himself reached out, so that the Stampede organization reached out. So it was I think getting all those messages and the outpour of support that was definitely a boost to the spirits, and I tried to draw strength from it, just to say that I've got a lot of people behind me and a lot of support, and I just, to be fair, the light at the end of the tunnel was just getting out there again, and that's why there was so much joy when I finally was able to get out there, because for a while there, like I said, I wasn't sure what the future held for my hockey career, and so finally getting back out there was just pure elation, and it's just a testimony to all the support that I received, and locally here with the Auckland Ice Hockey Association. I mean, it was just amazing. I just blown away.
Is that the worst injury you've had?
It's up there. I would definitely say, worst. As far as the horrific nature of it, I mean, like bleeding all over like that, and the crowd. Like I had parents call me and stuff after the fact, be like, "That's the scariest shit we've ever seen." Like I brought my little girl for her first game, and there you know what I mean. And it was like, so on the horrificness, yes, because there was the blood. But what I did in college was up there too, with my ankle. So I destroyed it pretty good. So I've still got a plate and 7 screws in it, and had to get all the deltoid ligaments stitched back together. I tore all 4 of them completely, ruptured them. So when I looked down at my foot, it was actually off to the side. I displaced it by an 1.5 inches. So that one was also pretty tough, and that ended up ultimately ending my college career. So they're right up there. And then all the head knocks are up there too. Like, I mean, I had post-concussion syndrome in junior for 6 months, and that was hell. Yeah. Trying to come back from that, you'd have a week where you felt great, and all of a sudden you're back to square one, and there's nothing to show for that injury. That was, I think, the hardest part was concussions and head knocks. You have nothing to show. You don't have a cast on a bone or a cut that's healing, and people tend to push you to come back sooner because you don't look hurt, I mean, you can't play hockey without getting hurt sometimes. It's part of the job description. So you just take it and just try to stay positive and keep pushing through. That's all you can do, really. So
now I know it's kind of a shitty thing to think about, but do you think that initial experience from when you dealt with the ankle injury when you were at the the University of Alaska Fairbanks, did that help you the next time you were faced with a near career-ending injury, as say with the eye injury?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. You once you get through, so it's like that old saying, "What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger." I mean, there's real truth to that in the sense that when you overcome such an obstacle, the next one you're looking at is kind of like, I can do this. I've been through it before. So yeah, no, definitely. Learning the patience and understanding that you're gonna have hard days, you're gonna have down in the dumps days, and when the thing you love to do most in life gets taken from you, you get depressed a little bit. I mean, I'm not afraid to talk about that. And I definitely have battled depression with injuries, and it's not fun, but again, every time you overcome that hurdle, you're ready to face the next one. And I always treat it like you just become a robot, switch your brain off, do what you got to do, get through the rehab, and just one foot in front of the other, and before you know it, you've taken 200 steps and you're on the way to recovery. And so I try to approach it as mindless as I can, accept the circumstance, deal with it, and do what you got to do to get better. That's really all you can do.
Now, rewind a little bit. You grew up playing hockey in Alberta.
Yep.
You're a Flames fan. We were just talking about that before. Yep. They're conference winners and division winners this year.
Yeah, there was also a great, I think last year you actually went to go to a game and you were dressed in a Santa hat and you got on TV because you were, I think you were abusing the other team.
Absolutely. We're in their ear. We are the seventh man out there. I'm super stoked to see the Flames clinch playoff hockey. There's nothing like it. But yeah, we end up making the Jumbotron every Christmas. I go back and my best friend, Sam Dilwert, he's got 4 tickets that are right on the rail where the visitors come out onto the ice. And since high school, we've been pretty vocal when we're there. We're hockey players, so we know how to get their attention, if you know what I mean. So we've actually had back and forth with like Tyler Sagan, and like the one night it was Barrett Jackman with the Blues, and we were all over Steve Ott and just absolutely giving it to him. And Jackman looked up and he went, "Have one for me, boys," because we had beers in our hands, and we were like, "You're a beauty, Jackman, you're a beauty." And so they ended up beating us in a shootout. And on the way off the ice, Jackman came by and we were like, "Yeah, Jackman." We were booing everybody else, grinding their gears. But Jackman, we were like, "Yeah, buddy." And he ended up handing us his stick. Right behind us, we looked at it and it's a lefty, and me and my buddies, we all shoot right. And a guy behind us was like, "I'll give you $50 for it now." And we're like, "Okay, sweet." So my buddy Sam gave him the stick. We got $50, and the casino is right in the same complex there as the dome. So we put it on roulette and let it ride, and walked out with $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so Jackman, you did it, buddy.
What a story.
Is it true that there's a beer at the Saddle Dome that's like, you don't know how much percentage is in it?
Yeah, so we call it heroin beer.
Right.
And the rumor is that it's like all the bottoms of the kegs,
Right.
and they just let it sit there, and it sits in the tap lines. And so there's obviously, I don't think it's real, but for some reason though, maybe it's they pump oxygen in there or something. But I can handle 6 beers, but 6 of those and you're pretty toasted. So, but we had a rule growing up that when we went in high school and stuff, well, over the age of 18, obviously.
Of course.
But it was that you had to have 2 a period, and that led to some good fun in the third. Let's put it that way.
So I kind of derailed your question there a little bit, Joe, with that awesome story.
That's okay. That was a good yarn. So you were selected by the Saskatoon Blades
Yeah,
for the WHL Bantam Draft.
Yeah.
But you went the college route.
Yeah,
Why,
I did.
Why the college route?
Well, in hindsight, I'm not sure I would have done things the same way. I had a lot of opportunities young and peaked pretty early as far as my skill development. And I was offered contracts from the time I was drafted. So that following year, they offered me like a 7th defenseman type spot on the team. And I was adamant about finishing school at home. Mom didn't want to see me go, and I wasn't quite mature enough yet to move away from home. And so missed a few opportunities, but I ended up, deciding to take more or less the slow track and work my way through junior A and get a scholarship. And the benefit to that is the education that gets covered, but obviously the WHL has done great work, and so has all of major junior in Canada, as far as providing academic opportunities outside of hockey once players are done. And I know that now it's a year for a year. So if you play a year at the WHL, OHL, QMJHL level, depending on your contract, which is different from player to player, but you get yourself a year of CIS. But back then, CIS was more or less what we call a graveyard league. You're not moving out of CIS to go anywhere, really. You're more or less getting your degree and then moving on, but that's changed now. Tons of players are coming out of CIS and going to play pro in Europe. And so it's now used more as a stepping stone. And again, a bit more of a development focus, because you play less games and you practice a ton.
Yeah.
Which is opposite for major junior. You're playing a ton, you're on the road a ton, and not as much practice. So, but I feel like in my situation, I might have benefited from fast tracking a bit more and going the dub route. So in hindsight, I don't know. It'd be tough. It'd be a coin toss, I think, if I were to do it all over again. But I might try my luck with the WHL.
I mean, even so, I feel that's a pretty mature decision to make back then, that you would put your schooling first ahead of a potential career path in hockey.
Yeah, I mean, again, I had some good mentors and people who had been the college route, and some dads of players I played with in minor hockey and stuff that had gone to college, and again, college was trending upwards back then too. I mean, there was tons of players getting signed and drafted out of NCAA. So I just thought, you know what, it can't hurt anything, and it was also too, like, being a small player, the WHL is pretty big.
It's monsters in there.
All the major junior guys are pretty big. And so I thought, NCAA at that time was a lot more speed, more skill and smaller guys. And so I thought that might be a better fit for what I brought to the table. But yeah, you never know. Hindsight's always 20/20. That's the thing. So it's easy to sit back and say, I should have done this or would have done that. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be here with you guys. So
yeah, you
thanks,
did something wrong. You definitely did something wrong.
Whatever, rate yourself higher, buddy.
Is there any kind of notable players on that Saskatoon squad that you would have been in the team with if you'd gone that way?
Yeah, well, I mean, the year that I was there, I ended up getting in a fight with my friend who was drafted in the 7th round. I was drafted in the 10th, Wyatt Hamilton. And we knew that, major junior, you got to fight and show that you're ready to stand up. So we thought, let's fight each other. I say friend loosely. We knew each other. We were acquainted, But we ended up getting fight of the day honors and had a big cheer after the fight. And he clocked me so good right off the start. I had no idea what I was doing, never been in a fight before. And I went to grab and totally missed. And he just absolutely cold cocked me right in the side of the mouth. And I couldn't see anything but white for like 5 seconds. So I seatbelted and then ended up landing a few. But with that said, I ended up hurting my wrist a little bit. And I was riding the bike next to Mike Green, who was he was captain of the team. And was injured through camp, and they didn't play those types of high profile players during camp, training camp. So they don't want to risk injury or some big meathead coming in off the prairies. It's just going to try to tune them. So, but I that same year, Devin Setaguchi was there. So yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. I mean, I went to the camp 2 years in a row, 16 and 17. And was just incredibly eye-opening. It's like the pros, you got equipment guys doing everything, and they did a good job of taking care of the draft picks. Like we got some pretty good treatment. Got to meet all the sponsors and have some really good chats with people and awesome networking. So it was cool. It was really cool.
One thing I think, looking through your junior career, one thing I think is awesome. I'm probably going to completely screw up the pronunciation of the team name here, but playing for the NZIHL Eagles of the Chinook Hockey League.
Yep.
Yeah, you were coached by the great Brian Sutter himself.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, a man who's achieved many feats in his career, including winning the Jack Adams in '91 with the Blues. So, what are some things you learned from Coach Sutter that still sticks with you today?
Yeah, I mean, he was a funny guy. I will say that he probably was less intense than he would have been with the Blues when he won the Jack Adams, but no, he was. He's an old school hockey mind, everything was about, sacrificing the body and finish your checks. I was only coached by him for a handful of games. And then I ended up getting traded to Sylvan Lake, the Admirals, actually, funny enough. But no, Suts was just, he was a good guy. He was a hard-nosed bastard, he was rarely cracked a smile. But no, he harped on being a good teammate, on putting the team first, sacrificing yourself for what needs to be done, whether it's blocking shots or standing up for a guy in a scrum or whatever it might be. So he ran a really tough team. But yeah, I mean, I just tried to soak up as much as I could from a guy like that with his background in hockey. But it was different. We only practiced once a week in the Chinook Hockey League. So Wednesday night was practice night, and I would drive the two hours from Calgary to do it. There was a carpool of guys that would leave Calgary and drive to Innisfail and back. So we got home at like 2:30 in the morning after practice. So, but you're not around each other as much as you'd like. And then games, you kind of hop on the bus. And to be fair, Sutsy was a bit of a no-go on the bus. So he just sat on the bus and got to the games. And yeah, no, it was interesting, but I would have loved to have spent more time, especially in practice, just to pick his brain. And having been there and done that, would have been really cool to learn a bit more. I feel I didn't get enough out of him.
Are there any other memories playing junior hockey in Canada that kind of stick out as like players you played against? Or
I'm seeing actually a teammate of mine, Corbin Knight, is doing awesome with the Philadelphia Flyers, and he set up Giroux for a nice 2-on-1 there the other night, and Corbin was just a great guy. So I played. I was lucky enough to play with and against a lot of guys that have made the NHL, and I think fondest memory, or I guess coolest memory, was actually we had an NHL drafted goalie, Brad Eidsness, who ended up going to North Dakota and was in the Buffalo Sabres system, and we ended up playing against Shannon Zabados's team.
Wow.
And she was just unbelievable, and so we met them in the semifinal of the AJHL championships that year, and it went to 7 games, and Shannon's team beat us, and it was like unbelievable to see her doing what she was doing. I mean, we had no solution. There was nothing we could do. We threw everything we could at her and just could not score. And they had Connaughton, who is now in the NHL, and a couple other players, but yeah, I mean, I think I remember the battles against Camrose. Those were huge because Okotoks and Camrose, it was always sort of top 2 in the south of the AJHL. And, guys like Joe Colburn, who I ended up playing at the edge with and then played against in junior, and some of the battles we'd have. And you can imagine he's pretty small, and he's 6 foot. Yeah, he's 6 foot, like 6.
Right.
So trying to cover him in front of the net, there was no getting his stick. It's like Schneider. What the hell are you going to do? And so, I go back to all those types of times. And to be fair, like junior's the glory days. Junior's what you'd go back to if you had a choice, And I just there's days I still don't feel like I've graduated from junior. Like I still feel like it's just, it's I'm still in that sort of mindset. But it's if you could rewind time, my God, I'd love to give it another crack. It's pretty cool.
Now, obviously, you've kind of been a bit of a natural born leader, it seems, throughout your career. You wore the C a little bit during your time playing juniors in Alberta, and of course now you are in New Zealand with the West Auckland Admirals. So, how do you think you would describe your leadership style when you wear that C?
God, good question. I guess for me, I just love being amongst the boys, and I love the time of like just you're playing alongside 21 best friends. So for me, top priorities is to be tight with everybody. And I like having fun. I like joking around. I'm not exactly like a dictator style leadership. But there is a line, and you have to understand when it's time to have fun and when it's business time. And I joke with some of the kids I coach that Drill Sergeant Daigle isn't afraid to come out every once in a while. And there have definitely been times over my career where I've had to bark a little bit, but I think I do a decent job at making sure everybody understands that it's constructive and it's because I care about them as individuals and the team as a whole. And as captain, a team success is a huge reflection on how you're handling things and what you're doing. And so I always just tried to make sure that I was doing things the right way and leading by example, and just trying to make sure that the team comes first and do everything I can to help the team have success. That's really all I care about at the end of the day, is the brothers you're playing alongside. That's all it's about.
Nice.
You touched a little bit on coaching the kids. So you're now the coach of the New Zealand Under-20s teams.
Yeah.
How's that transition been going from a player to an actual full-time head coach?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's tough at times because you do have to shut off the player side of you.
Yeah.
Because there's so much of you that just wants to go out there and do it yourself and lead by example in that sense, and execution is a huge thing as far as leading by example and knowing the systems. And so when you're teaching it and you can't just go out and do it and show it, it's different, but I thoroughly enjoy that age group, mainly because I go back to coaches I've had in my career and some of the lessons that they instilled that still stick with me today. And I'm a firm believer that hockey, but all team sports, it's more than just wins and losses and championships. It's the lessons you learn along the way about just being a good person and overcoming adversity and setting goals and being one part of a big puzzle, you know. And so I just try to pass on as much of that type of experience that I've gained over my career and try to pass on some lessons that I learned from some pretty influential coaches. And so again, it's just an honor and a privilege to be able to have any impact on youth, but to be able to coach them and have that responsibility is something I cherish for sure.
Speaking of lessons being learned here, obviously unfortunately, the Under-20s ended this year's IIHF tournament without a win. So as their head coach, what were some of your main takeaways from that performance?
Well, it's always the coach's fault, right? So
we're not saying that. We're not saying that.
No. But no, it was obviously disappointing. You're still a part of the team, and the competitive side is never gone. And so, for me, I don't like losing. But at the same time, you can learn a lot from it, and you can learn about bouncing back and dealing with that adversity, and how to maintain positivity, how to still be constructive as a teammate and as a person. And so it was tough. It was a tough 2 years at that level without a win, other than a tie against Iceland in the pre-tournament this year. So obviously results, I'd love to be able to change them, but it is what it is. And our MO as coaches, because AJ Spiller was my counterpart and a great coach, great hockey mind. And we both, made it our mandate that regardless of outcome and regardless of result, we're still going to do our job, which is prepare the team as best we can and pass down as much knowledge and teach as many lessons as we possibly can. And at the end of the day, no wins doesn't look great, but I'm still confident in the job that we did and what we were able to pass on to those kids. And hopefully we see a bunch of them wearing Ice Blacks jerseys in the future.
Yeah, it's open.
Because the under-18s also finished without a win. People might freak out then, what's going wrong with youth hockey in New Zealand? But where do you see the future of the sport in New Zealand? Are those teams to create Ice Blacks, or what is the kind of your thoughts on the purpose of those?
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I think the future looks bright. Regardless of the international outcomes right now that we're seeing, it's unfortunate. I watched a bunch of those under 18 games, and man, they could have won any one of those.
Overtime and
shootouts, and to get relegated after such close contests. It's not like they were getting blown out. Like, my heart goes out to them because they did fight real hard and they were in those games, and they just couldn't seem to get on top of it. So it's a tough one, and again, there'll be lots of lessons to learn, but I think the future looks great, really, really bright. I can only really speak on behalf of Auckland because I'm involved with the AIHA and I'm constantly coaching those kids, and numbers are at an all-time high, which is awesome to see, because that just means that the percentage of players that you're taking out of the pool are going to be that much better. And so as the numbers continue to grow, then I think things are trending in the right direction. I've been saying it for years, and it's finally really starting to happen, and it's a courtesy to people within the federation now that are doing a good job of steering things the right direction. But we need to standardize the approach and make sure that the same messages are being delivered across the country. And that's not to say we need one person saying, here's how you do it and this is how you do it. But we definitely need to standardize the approach to coaching these kids so that when they do come together for these international competitions, they've been hearing the same stuff year round. Nothing's new. Because the reality is, with our situation, everything was having to be taught from scratch. Systems that are pretty basic and should be learnt at a much younger level just weren't there. And so that takes time. And when you have a condensed training camp, now you're spending too much time teaching, not enough time organizing chemistry and your lineup and those types of things. And so, but no, all in all, I think it's moving in the right direction. And we got some awesome regional camps happening at the under 16 level with that program. And I know Paris Hyde is running that stuff with some guidance from Darren Blong, and Darren's doing a great job of putting together these plans and really making sure that it's rolled out across the country and that it's a standardized approach. And in my idea, that's the right way to do it. Yeah. So.
Now, I know you've got to rush off to Admirals training very shortly, but we'll try and squeeze in a couple more questions here. Speaking of, the future of the game in New Zealand, aside from the potential of an expansion to have a Wellington team in the NZIHL, what do you think that league needs to do to, jump ahead from where we are now to become, something bigger and better?
Yeah. It'll always be a common theme when I'm asked these types of questions. Sponsorship. we need money. That really is. I mean, it's what's holding back a lot of progress in my mind is just finance, because there's guys every year that are good hockey players that just can't afford to do it. And you talk about, under 20 level. Well, I tell you what, that's the drop off age because of finance. If it's going to cost a 19-year-old who's now moved out of home, doesn't have their parents paying for anything anymore, has their first job in their life and is going to uni, where are they meant to come up with $5,500 to go represent their country, And so that's why we see the trend of drop off at those age groups, and that just carries on. Once you lose them, the chances are they're not coming back. So if they drop out at 19, I don't think we're going to see them rejoining anytime after that. So it's how do you keep them in the sport? How do we try to cut down the cost to the local players, because they all have to pay to play in this league. So really the big inhibitor at this point is exposure and sponsorship. And that's why you guys are doing such a good job. And I'm always happy to come on here, is because you're getting it out there. You're pumping it, you're covering it. And that's what we need, because the more it's seen and the more it gets noticed, it's only a matter of time before somebody wants to throw some money at it and help it develop and take it to the next level. And so just, keep doing what you guys are doing.
Thanks.
Yeah. Lastly, so preseason started for the Admirals, starting tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it's going to take for you guys to repeat as champions?
A hell of an effort.
Yeah.
The target on your back only gets bigger. That's the thing. And so, we had a few personnel changes and all that. And, but at the end of the day, it comes down to hard work, preparation. And so it's just going to be a matter of everybody working together and continuing what we got done last year and not getting complacent. And the second you get complacent, that's when you're done, So from top to bottom, it's just going to be every training, every time we're in the gym, every preseason game, every game. It's just a matter of taking steps forward and none backwards. And just working our asses off. That's going to be the MO. So, nothing will change from last year as far as, technical stuff, maybe a few changes to some systems and building on a few things that we got started last year. But other than that, it's just going to be working as a team and working our asses off.
Yeah, those crosstown games are going to have a little bit extra spice with them now with Rick. With Rick playing in goal, you're just going to be crashing the net a little bit harder.
We wished him well, but I also said I can't wait to go bar down on you, buddy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Daigle, thanks so much for coming back onto the podcast to relive the magic that we lost almost 2 years ago, actually.
Yeah, it's crazy it took that long, eh?
I know.
Sorry,
you're
boys,
a busy
it's
man.
busy. It's just like coaching hours are all outside of work, and you guys work, a normal job, and so it's tough.
Logan lives in Sydney now.
Yeah,
so.
now we got that to deal with, but I appreciate you guys having me on, and this one feels like it was half the amount of time we spent last time. Wasn't last one like an hour and a half or something?
Yeah, it was. I think we're going to have to do a part 2 at some point, because there's still so much stuff that we need to touch on here. But yeah, thanks again for coming on, Daigle, and all the best for the NZIHL season coming up.
Hey, cheers for that, boys.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Puck Yeah! It's New Zealand's home for hockey. Subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, or with your favourite podcast app for the latest episodes. Follow the team on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at PuckYeahNZ. And for your fix of hockey news, go to puckyeah.nz.